And now, Focus on the Pines with your host, Jack Barnes.
Hi, I'm Jack Barnes and welcome to Focus on the Pines, where we bring you news, views, and interesting people from in and around Ocean Pines. As we go about our daily lives, we often forget that for every soldier shipped to the war overseas, there is a spouse left at home to fend with life that, to the casual observer, may appear to continue on in a normal way, but in reality may be a completely different situation, as the spouse is thrust into a world often fraught with stress and financial uncertainty. Our guest today is Ocean Pines resident Jesse Parsons, wife of Lieutenant David Parsons, currently serving in Iraq with the 224th Area Support Medical Company of the Maryland National Guard. She has graciously agreed to share her story to help others understand what some call the war at home. Jesse, welcome to Focus on the Pines.
Thank you.
Now, before we get into the current situation, let's go back in history a little bit. I understand you were a Berwick, Pennsylvania girl up in my area of Pennsylvania.
Yes, I was.
And Dave's a native here from the Willards area.
Yes.
That seems like worlds apart to some folks. How'd you two meet?
We met through some mutual friends. I worked in a restaurant, the Embers restaurant, for many years in Ocean City. And we had some mutual friends who introduced us, and that's how we started dating.
So you both were in Ember's restaurant, huh?
He actually was not, but his best friend worked there.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Now, I understand that you had kind of a unique marital situation.
Yes.
Tell our viewers about that.
We had been dating for a couple of years when 9/11 happened, and as soon as 9/11 hit, he was immediately activated. At that point in time, he was with the 115th Military Police Unit in Salisbury. And they activated him, and he was sent to the Pentagon, as was the rest of his unit. And he came back the beginning of October, and we just decided to get married. Since we knew that he was going to be sent out again, and we'd been dating for a few years, it kind of pushed our hand to get married.
So you got married in kind of a short span of time.
Yes.
Between that, and then I understand, was he sent to Guantanamo Bay to set up the prison, or was that later on?
Actually, he was sent to Fort Stewart in Georgia to cover some troops that were, some active duty troops that were sent out of there. And I went down to visit him over Thanksgiving, and then around Christmas time, shortly after Christmas, he was sent to Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, where his unit, they were the first to set up the detainee camp.
Okay, so your honeymoon was kind of short.
It was very short.
Now, from what I understand, Dave then made a switch out of the military police unit and into a, what do we call it, medical?
It's a medical unit, and he actually only did that in February of this year. So he switched over for some different opportunities. He's a licensed clinical social worker. They had a behavioral health officer position open in that unit. He was able to get a promotion and go to that unit in February, and then they were activated in March.
Boy,
So,
that was a quickie.
Yes.
And then he ended up after he was promoted too, wasn't he?
He was promoted. Yes, he had been enlisted. He was an E7, and then he got promoted to first lieutenant.
That's
So,
great.
yeah.
And then suddenly May 10th comes around.
And he's gone.
And he's gone. He's shipped to Iraq.
He was shipped first out to Fort Lewis in Washington State, and then off to Iraq.
So he didn't have many days at home between his training, his promotion, and when he went to Iraq. It sounds like you're talking days here.
Actually, in April, he had to go to his officer's training school. So for the whole month, he was gone to Texas. He came back for just 3 days. You know, as you had said, and May 10th, he was shipped out, and we haven't seen him in person since. So.
Now, you explained to me before, you are a behavioral specialist, and you work for the state of Delaware?
Yep, I'm a clinical services coordinator for the state of Delaware for the Division of Child Mental Health. So I arrange mental health services and substance abuse treatment services for kids, and I monitor their progress.
And Dave has those skills as well, and I guess what I'm getting to here, most people would think, boy, you really you're going to be prepared.
Yes.
You have 2 children.
Yes.
Rafe is
6
6
now.
years old, and the young girl, Kendall,
is 4.
is 4. So you thought you were going to really be well prepared
Yes.
when Dave was sent overseas, but you had some
Absolutely.
surprises, I understand.
Absolutely. We did all the right things with talking to the kids about this and explaining it. Dave did videos with the kids reading books so that we could show them at night, so they'd have their dad reading, books to them at night. We did all kinds of things to prepare them.
Plus, I think you have.
Oh,
Maybe we
I
can show
do.
our viewers
Yes.
here. Here's something. Why don't you hold this one up?
Okay.
And on the one side, we have a picture of Lieutenant Dave, and on the other side, I have Kendall, and you have
That's right.
Rafe. And if I remember right, we squeeze this, and
You
it
can hear. Yes.
says, "I love you, my little monkey."
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great. It seems like you're really extremely well prepared.
They were called
for Dave to go away.
Hug a Hero dolls. I found them on a website, and we got the pictures taken. I thought, I've got this. We're gonna have all kinds of reminders of Daddy at home, and and with the webcam too, we can see him through Skype.
But you had a few surprises along the way.
Absolutely.
I think one was probably Rafe, the older child, at 6, had a little hard time handling this.
Absolutely. Rafe is such a good kid. He's such a sweet boy. Never really had any problems with Rafe, but he had a really adverse reaction to his father leaving. He really was just filled with anxiety, and he decided that his dad was gone, and that mommy wasn't in charge, daddy's in charge, and he got pretty aggressive with both myself and our little girl. So it ended up that I needed to take him for counseling. So I needed to have him see a trauma specialist, because this is a trauma for little kids. And developmentally at his age, he was 5 at the time, he turned 6 in August, it just seemed to hit him differently than it did his sister, who also had a difficult time with not having 2 parents in the house like we're always used to. But, Rafe had a really difficult time, and we're still going to counseling.
And even with the internet, where a lot of us say, well, gee, you have the video cameras and everything.
Right.
That didn't quite work out as good initially, at least, as you thought. Rafe had a hard time with that.
He absolutely did, because with Skype and with the
what is Skype now?
Skype is a free webcam service that's offered, and sometimes it doesn't work so well depending on what the connection is, and especially with Iraq, it's sometimes their electricity goes out over there in the middle of us talking. And the first time I tried to use it, and for Rafe to see his dad on the webcam, it went down. So he immediately thought that his dad had been killed, which was really difficult. And ever since then, he really doesn't like talking with his dad on the webcam. He'll talk a little bit, he'll stand back while his sister and I talk, but he's really uncomfortable with the delay too. There's a few second delay when you're speaking. So even your best intentions of having the webcam ready and these dolls and videotapes, it just didn't seem like it was enough for Rafe.
So you're struggling with the children and some situations and issues with them, but at the same time, you face some very practical issues, as now probably what a lot of single moms face. Everything from, I guess, learning how to use hedge clippers to financial situations.
Yes.
Tell us what that was like, and what some of the things you faced that maybe might be surprising.
Well, what was interesting was that Dave had always been in charge of the bills, and he sat down with me before he left and showed me what he does and what our plan is, and so I've figured that out. But again, I need to do that in the context of some little kids running around, because their bedtime is it's a pretty difficult time. That's probably the worst time for them. Even now I struggle with bedtime. So to be able to get them settled long enough for me to do bills. And then I also realized that I didn't do any of the yard work, and I didn't even know how to use hedge clippers or anything. So I taught myself how to use hedge clippers. That was one of the things. The maintenance of the vehicles is something I really didn't handle. I have to make sure that, you know, I take care of the maintenance of both his vehicle and mine now. And also, we had lost the support of, well, I don't want to say lost the support, but our support from my in-laws has been diminished because as soon as Dave left, his mother got very ill, and she did the primary child care for our kids. So now, on top of them having their father gone, now they're also in child care right now and in daycare part day for before and after school. Rafe had to go to a summer camp for the summer, which is wonderful. They go to Little Lambs. That's where we attend church at the community church. So they luckily knew the people there, but there's been a lot of changes. And now when one of the children are sick, it's only me that can stay home. We have, you know, we can't split our time between Dave staying home and I staying home with the kids. So
you also mentioned, Jesse, that there's a more possibly a sense of isolation than if Dave had been in the regular Army as opposed to the National Guard. Explain that to the viewers.
I think one of the things that people don't realize is when the National Guard are deployed, a lot of times they're not part of a larger military community. When you have the active military, they have a base that they're on. When they're sent away and deployed, the families that stay back live together on the base. It's more normalizing for those families and those kids. They expect that this is going to happen. They're more used to the deployments. The military installations are better at dealing with the children and the family's needs. When it comes to the National Guard, what happens is, you know, we're spread out across Maryland. Dave's unit is out of Laurel, Maryland, closer to the Baltimore, D.C. area. So I don't have anybody from his unit that is anywhere near me. And that makes it difficult. Even though we have a very good family readiness person who contacts me and emails all of us regularly, it's not the same as living in a close proximity to people that are going through the same thing that you are. So you do feel very isolated. People don't understand what it means. I mean, I have people walk by and we have, you know, a yellow ribbon on our tree, and they, you know, a lot of people don't even understand what that means. Or
yeah, sometimes the neighbors aren't even aware. They just
aren't
assume
even
everything
aware.
is just normal,
Yeah.
and you just don't see them as much.
Yep.
And then there's other, I guess, and you mentioned, didn't mind me mentioning this, unexpected surprises, and that was relative to Dave's job and a potential promotion there. What can you elaborate on that?
He got a letter in the mail, a position that he had applied for in his regular job. His civilian job is as a social worker in one of the correctional institutes in Maryland. And he was up for a promotion but wasn't able to even have the interview for that because he was away. So, you know, fortunately, it was for a job that was in the Baltimore area, so he probably wouldn't have taken it. But it was surprising to me to find out that they wouldn't even grant him an interview.
You were, I think, very kind in mentioning to me that you felt you were very fortunate and that both you and Dave worked, and financially, you know, you're able to get through this. But of course, there's probably a lot of families that see it in a little different light, or it becomes quite a financial strain. Do you have any, being in the business you are in as far as social services, and also being exposed to a situation for obviously a year here where you're without Dave and have to take on the all of the elements of the family normally is taken on shared by two. Do you have any advice for spouses that things they might look at doing, or if there are some just getting ready to go through this, words that might give them some support?
I think that you really need, when you're in the National Guard, I think you really need to understand that you can be deployed at any time, and I think that you have to, you know, plan. Even the best laid plans don't always work out, but you have to be able to plan and understand how to handle the finances, which was a good thing, is that that was something that we did, that I could take over the finances. But you also, for me, the biggest surprise were my children and the reaction that they had. I think looking back, I would have proactively started them even before he left in some kind of counseling, and that's probably what I should have done. And if this ever happens again, that's what we're going to do. So I would say, please don't feel like it's some type of a stigma to go to counseling for the children. It's been very helpful. So that's one thing that I would suggest.
Now, on a lighter note, since Focus on the Pines is an international show, and Dave can log on with his friends over there. Anything you'd like to say to Dave and his comrades?
I just want to let him know that we're really proud of him and we want him to keep up the good work, and that I am handling things. It's not always easy, but we're figuring things out as we go along. And we've actually, met some really nice people that are helpful. That's the other side of the coin, is that you find out who the helpful people are. And as I had mentioned to you, we've got some rental properties, and we have a new tenant in our Ocean Pines rental who did a whole bunch of work for us. Trinity Restoration is running our Ocean Pines rental, and they did a whole bunch of work for us for free for your service. And I thought that was a really nice thing, because that wasn't something that they had to do. So there are some nice people that still want to help out.
Oh, that's great. And Jesse, I certainly commend you for your efforts on the home front here, and we wish you well. And hopefully your words of encouragement can provide some encouragement to others that are in the similar circumstances, or perhaps about to be in those circumstances. And on behalf of all our viewers, let me thank Lieutenant Dave Parsons over there in Iraq, and his fellow soldiers in the 224th Area Support Medical Company for the service and the great job they're doing for our country. And Dave, we look forward to the day you're back here in March when Jesse can take that yellow ribbon off the tree in front. And Godspeed. And again, thank you all for viewing. This is Jack Barnes for Focus on the Pines.